From Guinness draft within its pubs to music in the street, from ancient lore to modern tech, now Dublin's hard to beat. Come explore it with us. Welcome back to My Travel Window, where we help you travel as much as you can while you can. Today is installment 4 of our 6-week 2022 adventure by plane, train, automobile, and cruise ship. As you can see here, our adventure is in 3 parts, each approximately 2 weeks. In the first leg of the adventure, we took a train and car journey up the East Coast from D.C. to Bar Harbor, Maine. Our 3 episodes covered our time in Philadelphia, Newport, Rhode Island, and several stops in Maine. Today we start the second leg of our journey, traveling across Ireland and the UK, starting in Dublin, with stops in Bristol, Bath, London, Oxford, Newbury, and eventually to Southampton to start our cruise. So, the Newbury stop is designed to facilitate our visit to Highclere Castle, the filming location for the series Downton Abbey. So why stop in Dublin? Well, first, it's the easiest place to start the journey. The flight from DC to Dublin is nonstop and takes 7 hours, which is about as short as a flight across the Atlantic gets. We found it cheaper to fly to Dublin and then take a short commuter plane and train from there to get to see the rest of the UK. Secondly, we had a brief previous experience in the city of Dublin, having spent a day here on a cruise ship before, in 2016 when we sailed around the British Isles. We like to use cruise ships to get a taste for a location, and then the ones we really like, we come back for a more in-depth trip, and that's exactly what we're doing with Dublin. As we've mentioned before, we like to use Airbnb locations when we can, and we generally rely on the local transportation, bus, subway, whenever we can, taxis when we need to. We'll rent cars if we must, but generally we find them to be more hassle than they're worth, especially because of parking and the difficulty of getting around, and particularly in England when you're driving on the left side of the road. I give you all this background so you can understand that we overreached a little bit on this particular stay. As you can see by the map, the airport is well north of the city center. There's an excellent $7 per person bus, the express bus that makes the 50-minute trip into downtown, so that's not a problem. We were in Dublin in the heart of the tourist season, and hotel availability was also affected by the fact that Ireland, which has only 5 million people, was housing at least 50,000 Ukrainian refugees, which were taking up some of the hotel space which would normally be used for tourists. So we were able to find a very lovely and reasonably priced Airbnb. We would recommend the place, but it's located about 45 minutes south of the city. So counting the transfer time between the 2 buses to get there, it took us 2 hours each way to come from the airport to our Airbnb and back to the airport. The bus service was good, everything went well, except for 2 occasions. When we needed to be in town earlier than we thought we could get there by bus. And we scheduled an Uber on the first day. Everything went fine, said the Uber would be there. When the Uber was due to arrive, all of a sudden there was a message, no drivers available. The following morning we had a plane to catch, and feeling fearful of relying on Uber again, we scheduled a taxi. Again, the taxi, we scheduled it online, it said the taxi would be there, and came the time and nobody showed up. So in both cases we wound up taking the bus, and we made it only on the second day because our plane was slightly delayed. But my advice out of this whole thing, it may be difficult, but find accommodations that are closer to town, or make sure that you can arrange the transportation, that the hours will work for you if you're staying farther away. If you can find a hop-on, hop-off bus in Dublin which has a live narrator instead of a recorded one, it's worth its weight in gold. It was a wonderful trip. Take it. But above all, bring your patience, especially if you're coming in peak tourist season. We previously visited Trinity College Library, which is fantastic, and found it fully booked this time. We couldn't go. We did take one overly ambitious trip. It was 13 hours long. It traveled across Ireland from east to west and came to the Cliffs of Moher. It's very impressive, and you'll see some of the pictures. But it pushed our endurance to the limit. Adding the commuter time made the trip even longer. What's going to follow is a montage of things to see and do in Dublin. It's a wonderfully delightful town. The buskers are fantastic. There's music everywhere you go within tourist areas, and we would plan to visit again anytime. But next time, we're going to do it outside of the summer tourist season. Next stop, Bristol, England. Until then, safe travels.